Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating rivalries in the entire world of spirits, the 100-year whiskey war between Scotland and Japan. For generations, Scotland was the undisputed champion. It wasn't even a question. But then, a challenger rose from the east, forcing us to ask something that was once unthinkable. Who truly reigns supreme? And make no mistake, this is not just some friendly competition. It's been called a century-long battle for the very soul of whiskey itself, a real clash between the rugged, ancient traditions of the inventor and the relentless, obsessive precision of the student. So how did we even get here? Let's wind the clock back to the beginning, to the single event that would end up changing the whiskey world forever. It all starts in 1923. The first seed of Japanese whiskey gets planted at the Yamazaki distillery. And at the time, it was seen as little more than a cheap imitation of Scotch. But fast forward almost a century to 2014, the unthinkable happens. A Yamazaki single malt is declared the best whiskey in the world. You can just imagine the shockwaves that sent through Scotland. To understand how the student could possibly beat the master, we need to go back to where Japan's entire whiskey journey began, which was, funnily enough, by learning directly from the source. Okay, meet the two founding fathers. On the left, you've got Masataka Taketsuru, a young chemist who was sent to Scotland on a mission. On the right, that's the original kiln he helped build for a visionary businessman named Shinjiro Tori. Their shared goal was simple, but ambitious, to craft authentic whiskey in Japan. Now, Taketsuru didn't just go over and take a few notes. No, he enrolled at Glasgow University and actually worked as an apprentice at legendary distilleries. He returned not just with knowledge, but with the literal textbook on how to make whiskey. The Japanese approach began as a direct, faithful copy of Scottish methods. But from the very beginning, Taketsuru knew it couldn't just be about copying. This quote shows his whole philosophy. He believed whiskey making had to be a partnership between that Scottish wisdom he learned and Japan's own unique natural gifts. And this is where the two paths really start to diverge. And this divergence? Well, it led to a fascinating clash of philosophies, shaping two profoundly different ways of creating the exact same spirit. You see, the two industries are built on completely different structures. In Scotland, you've got over 100 distilleries, and they all kind of collaborate. They trade spirits with each other to create a wide palette for their blends. But in Japan, the two giants, Suntory and Nikka, are fierce rivals. They do not trade. This forced them to become masters of variety within their own walls. And that internal pressure to innovate is driven by a core cultural philosophy, Kaizen. Now, this isn't just some business strategy. It's a deep-seated belief in relentless, continuous improvement. It's the perfect mindset for a challenger who's aiming to surpass the master. This quote from a distillery manager who worked in both countries just nails the difference. He said that while Scotland reveres tradition for its own sake, Japan protects what works, but is always willing to change what doesn't. And this mindset, it became their secret weapon. So, what did this quest for perfection actually lead to? A really unique aesthetic goal, summed up by the word transparency. It's this idea that you can perceive each flavor and aroma with absolute clarity, almost like looking through pure water, but they all combine into this complex, harmonious whole. And this really shows the contrast. Scottish whiskey often celebrates its body, that weight and texture on your palate. It's rugged, it's earthy, it reflects its wild landscape. Japanese whiskey, on the other hand, is a lot like its culinary arts. It strives for precision and clarity. Think of it like the difference between a hearty stew and a perfectly composed plate of sashimi. And these philosophies translate into some key technical advantages. Japan's dramatic climate, with hot summers and cold winters, actually accelerates maturation, pulling complex flavors from the cask much faster. They pioneer the use of rare Mizunara oak, which gives these unique notes of incense and spice. And they cultivate hundreds of their own yeast strains to create a huge spectrum of flavors, all in service of achieving that incredible in-house variety. Through this relentless innovation, Japan began a truly remarkable transformation, from a mere imitator of Scotch to a global leader in its own right. And nothing symbolizes this shift better than this bottle right here. This is a Karazawa 1960, a single cask that can command prices of over $20,000. Japanese whiskey is no longer just a drink. It has become a highly sought-after luxury art form. This rise to the top wasn't just about technique, though. It was about elevating the craft into a philosophy known as Whisky-do, or the Way of Whisky. It's an approach that sees making whiskey as this lifelong path of learning and listening to the spirit and the landscape. A perfect example of this is the use of that local Mizunara oak. This wood gives off this unique aroma, sometimes described like incense in a Zen temple, which became a globally recognized and distinctly Japanese signature. And get this, their mastery of wood is so profound that today, many Scottish distillers are actually studying Japanese methods of cask management to unlock new flavors. So where does this leave our 100-Year War? Well, it's taken us to a completely new realm for whiskey. What's happened is that the argument isn't really about who is better anymore. That's the wrong question. Instead, this rivalry has gifted the world a new appreciation for different philosophies, different aesthetics, and ultimately a richer and more diverse world of whiskey. In the end, this century of dialogue and competition has done something incredible. It has elevated whiskey from what was once a humble farm product into a true universal art form, appreciated and practiced all across the globe. Which leaves us with one final thought. Now that Japan has redrawn the map and proven that greatness can come from anywhere, who's next?